When the pillars upon the new mutant nation of Krakoa was built begin to crack and crumble, will this spell death for friend and foe alike? Well, let's hop into the pages of Inferno issue number 1, the next big X-Men storyline, and find out together, shall we? Oh, well, no, isn't this fun? The first page we see as we dig on into this new book is actually a direct mirror to the first scene we saw all the way back in Hawks and Pox, only this time it's Emma Frost, wearing the Cerebro helmet as she's seemingly rebirthing both Professor X and Magneto. How did they die? We're not sure yet, but we're gonna jump around a lot until we find out. From there we transition on over to the Orchis space station, where we see a brand new hit squad of mutants made up of Wolverine, Domino, and Kid Omega have been dispatched to deal with the new Nimrod problem. The X-Men throw absolutely everything they have at the mutant killing machine, but to no avail. Nimrod is too smart and can keep changing the rules of battle whenever he wants. Even when it looks like they've overtaxed him, distracted him, and Wolverine gets in what would normally be a killing blow, he's just able to upload himself elsewhere. As Dr. Devo goes on to explain, apparently these mutant assassination attempts are coming quicker and closer together now. If it's not the regular old X-Men, it's a bunch of space bounty hunters or even broods. So far, none of them have been successful, and if anything, Orchis has actually learned a fair amount of these attacks. They now know beyond a shadow of a doubt that the mutants are able to resurrect themselves. And they begin to theorize that maybe even if they are killing the physical forms of the mutants who come to try and destroy Nimrod, the memories of those battles are going elsewhere. Now, it's after that we actually take another trip back in time to a scene that will be familiar to you if you read Hawks and Pox. I'm of course talking about when Mystique and her wife Destiny destroyed the scientific research lab led by Moira McTaggart that was working on a mutant cure. We had seen a small snippet of this scene from Moira's point of view, explaining how she feared people who can see the future and other precogs, which is why Destiny is one of the few mutants to never actually have been resurrected on the island. Here, though, we actually get a much deeper and in-depth account of this meeting. Once Destiny realized that Moira had the invisible mutant power of reincarnation, and yet seemed to be using these powers against mutant kind by trying to cure the X gene entirely, she was understandably pretty pissed off. As far as Destiny was concerned, Moira's self-hate was so entirely all-encompassing she was literally taking it out on every other mutant in the world. This is why Destiny would actually end up challenging Moira to try and make better use of her limited lives, to try and use them to make mutant kind better and safer. So in a weird way, Destiny actually incepted the idea for Krakoa in the mind of Moira McTaggart. And yes, before you have to ask, the rest of the scene plays out exactly like how we remember from Hawks and Pox, with Destiny saying should Moira ever try and harm mutant kind again, Destiny will see fit to destroy her completely, by killing her before her powers ever manifest. And just to really hit that point home, Destiny then has Pyro burn her alive slowly. I mean, hey, the book is called Inferno for a reason, right? Now it has more than one meaning. That's not the only fun callback we get in this issue either. Remember Horticulture, that group of rogue plant scientists who look exactly like the Golden Girls? You'll recall that they had hacked the Krakoan gates and stolen a bunch of important data. Well, we actually see what became of it in this issue. They sold it off to Orchis, but Orchis doesn't believe what they're seeing. You see, one of Orchis's top scientists, who is also an ape-man, just go along with it, thought that he and his people were spying on a Krakoan gate, only to realize there was another secret Krakoan gate right under them. Still not 100% sure what any of that means yet, but it's a big reason for concern for Orchis. Now from there we transition on over to Moira McTaggart in the present, which is actually kind of a big deal because we don't see her that much in the X-Men books, despite her literally being the most important person in the world right now. She's having a clandestine meeting with Xavier and Magneto, and quite frankly, she is not happy about how these two have conducted themselves. I mean, come on, have you read any of the books right now? They're dropping the ball all over the place. Now, originally, Moira was quite fine letting Magneto and Professor X play Kings of Krakoa on the condition that they did two things for her. One, stop Nimrod from coming online, and two, stop Destiny from getting resurrected. But if you've been reading the books, you'll know that they failed on both accounts in huge ways. They messed with Mystique too much, lied to her about resurrecting Destiny, and because of that, Mystique actually allowed Nimrod to come online when she could have stopped it. Oops. In fact, as Xavier says, the more they try and stop Nimrod, the deeper they seem to dig themselves into an endless hole. They can't even attack Orchis's nodes anymore because that's being viewed as a sign of aggression by Krakoa. Alrighty then, thinks Magneto out loud, we can't stop the robots, and in every one of the multiple lives you've lived, the robots end up bringing about about the end of all mutant kind. Maybe in this timeline we try fusing with the mutants, he says while trying to open a bottle of wine with a wine opener. Moira is quite disgusted by this idea, obviously, and says joining with the machines is tantamount to making a deal with cancer. You just can't do it. It's Xavier who says with the little time they have left, they will need to shore up support from the Quiet Council to try and ensure their next action, which might be hard to do, as the Council all has many different ideas about what's best for Krakoa, and perhaps the only way they're going to be able to get what they want and ensure the nation's safety is by electing a bunch of new yes-men. Also, Moira discovers that Xavier and Magneto have been spying on her this whole time and put a tracer inside of her tea, so they know she's been coming back and forth from Muir Island. The whole council and political situation on Krakoa gets even more untenable too, as we're reminded that Cyclops is actually stepping down as war captain of Krakoa to try and spend more time being a traditional superhero with the X-Men over in New York. Naturally, Scott Summers still loves his people, he just thinks he can do more good elsewhere. Bishop will actually end up succeeding him as the head of the War Council, and Psylocke will take Gorgon's old place because, hey, you gotta have at least one person with a samurai sword. Don't tell Silver Samurai, though, I bet he'll be crushed. Another fun little side story that happens in this issue as we check on in with Cypher. He's living with his mutant wife from Erico, as well as still hanging out with the big Krakoan tree and his buddy Warlock, who is a robot. Which, honestly, I feel like this panel exists solely so someone can point and say, hey, look, maybe mutant robot giant tree cohabitation is indeed possible. Cohabitation on the Quiet Council, though, is much less tenable. Scott is gone, so is Apocalypse, meaning that there's 2 open seats, but that might not be enough for Xavier to get what he wants, so he says that the loyalty of everyone else on the council is about to be tested, and should they want to walk away, now should be the time to do it. Obviously, characters like Nightcrawler and stuff are completely confused as far as they thought things were going pretty solid for the council. It's here that Mystique ends up stepping on in and taking over everything. She says that she agrees with Xavier and they do need some new blood on the council, maybe some new powerful blood, someone like, oh, I don't know, someone who can see the future, someone like the newly resurrected Destiny. How on earth did that happen? I don't know, but we're certainly gonna have to read the next issue to find out, aren't we, as the comic comes to a close. And so that was Inferno issue number 1, everybody, and oh boy, was it a lot to take in, but it's something that I feel a lot of readers, myself included, are going to get a real sense of reward from if you've been paying attention to everything going on in the X-Men books. Heck, even if you haven't been buying all the X-Men books, I would argue this is probably the most important chapter in the story since the original Hawks and Pox, and because it's going to be Hickman's last X-Men title for a while. I do love getting to see all these different chickens come home to roost. I love Mystique finally getting one over on Xavier and Magneto, who were admittedly super cruel to her all story long. I like Moira getting back into the story. She's such a huge part, but has been able to slip into the background so easily, and now I don't think she can hide anymore. I love that even though Xavier and Magneto have supposedly been on the same team this whole time, they still can't help but keep secrets from each other and argue with each other like they were foes all over again. Ultimately, I'd feel comfortable giving this one a real solid 8 out of 10, and I know the best is still probably yet to come, which gets me even more excited and invested.
Hey there everyone, Cape Joel again, and I want to thank you so much for watching to the end of the video. As always, if you liked what you see, be sure to like, subscribe, comment. It really helps drive engagement and helps me out too. Also, if you are a patron, which you can become for as little as $1 a month, you will get exclusive content that no one else can ever see, and you'll get to see the Comic Multiverse podcast before anyone else too. You can check out all this and more down in the description. And until next time, everyone, this has been Cape Joel, and I'll see you all next time.